Therefore, to ensure energy security and provide sufficient electricity for industrialization, Uganda is making efforts to integrate nuclear energy in the electricity generation mix. I therefore halted exploitation of our indigenous uranium resource to preserve it for powering Uganda's nuclear power plants as a means of providing adequate electricity for socio-economic development. Some people came and they said they wanted to, we have quite a bit of uranium here, quite a bit. And some people came and they said they wanted to export uranium. I said, no, I will not allow anybody to export our uranium because we need it. We need it here. We need it for our power generation. So if you hear that, then don't be surprised. I am the one who stopped the export of uranium, and I will not allow it as long as I'm in charge here. When I learned French, I tried to learn French. I didn't succeed. Many years ago, about 60 years ago, I was trying to learn French, and I was moving very well. Fermez la porte, ouvrez la porte, and I was moving well, but the problem came when the teacher told me that some of the words were men, some were women. Then I asked the teacher, I said, teacher, how do I know which word is woman and which word is man? The teacher said, no, you must cram everything in your head. So I forgot about French. I didn't learn French anymore. But I kept one word, which kept in my head. Two words, actually. Beaucoup dormir. Beaucoup dormir. This is a French way they speak, which means a lot of sleeping. People sleeping a lot. If you are speaking Portuguese, I think you would say, muito dormir. Now, in Africa here, people have been asleep. We've been asleep. And it has been really a struggle to wake up people. You heard what the representative of South Korea was saying. South Korea is now a first world economy country, but in the 1950s it was much poorer than many of the African countries. But you heard how they got up. They now have 25 nuclear power stations. You heard him, you heard his speech. I want a copy of those speeches. I want a copy of the South Korean and the one of the IEA, the Energy Agency. They are very good. They have got a lot of information. But here in Uganda, for sure, I don't want to talk about other African countries, but in Uganda here we have been having a big battle to wake up people, including government people. So since this time, when we had this crisis of the few power stations that are on the Nile, I told them to develop the full range of all the energy sources. Since then, Uganda's electricity generation capacity has increased from 60 megawatts. You can imagine that Uganda in 1986 had 60 megawatts, a country, 60 megawatts. And people were just not bothered. Of course, they have got other sources of energy. They have, the villagers use biomass to cook, to warm, because of this abundant vegetation. And I was telling the director to quantify that in terms of megawatts. If they were using generated power, what would all this, the biomass, I think we must be destroying now about maybe 40 billion cubic meters of biomass each year, I think. Must be destroying about, because some years ago it was 28 billion cubic meters of biomass to provide for cooking, for that. But now it must be, you should get the figures. Fortunately, the trees here grow very easily, but that's not the correct way to move. So from that time, we are now generating, we shall soon be generating about 2,100 megawatts of hydropower. But this is very, very, very little. If it was not for the use of the biomass, which is the villagers use, and some element of solar energy and so on. However, the hydro, biomass, geothermal, and peat potential, when fully developed, cannot meet Uganda's energy needs. For we need about 100,000 megawatts. But these sources cannot do that, even if they are fully developed. The hydro, the biomass, the geothermal, they cannot do that. Therefore, to ensure energy security and provide sufficient electricity for industrialization, Uganda is making efforts to integrate nuclear energy in the electricity generation mix. I therefore halted exploitation of our indigenous uranium resource to preserve it for powering Uganda's nuclear power plants as a means of providing adequate electricity for socio-economic development. Some people came and they said they wanted to, we have quite a bit of uranium here, quite a bit. And some people came and they said they wanted to export uranium. I said, no, I will not allow anybody to export our uranium because we need it. We need it here. We need it for our power generation. So if you hear that, then don't be surprised. I am the one who stopped the export of uranium, and I will not allow it as long as I'm in charge here. Uganda continues to address the issue of the affordability of power in order to support industrialization. This government has put in place arrangements to ensure direct supply of power to industrial parks with a target of tariff of 5 US cents per kilowatt hour. The pressing demands to meet the energy needs in an environmentally friendly manner has made nuclear power very competitive compared to other technologies. Nuclear energy is comparable to large hydro, but the latter is highly dependent on the hydrology of the reservoir. Learning from the electricity crisis in Uganda of 2005, which was a result of a drought. As wise people, we have no option but to diversify our electricity generation mix to have sufficient base load to spur industrialization. Undoubtedly, constructing a nuclear power plant may seem to be an expensive venture, but it is relatively cheap to run. The estimated average cost of power from a nuclear power plant can go as low as 4 US cents per kilowatt hour. Nuclear power is an economic source of electricity generation, combining the advantages of security, reliability, and very low greenhouse gas emissions.